As everyone's getting organized, I think we just wanted to welcome everyone here to our Careers in Environmental Advocacy. We're really excited for this event. And so we'll have all the coordinators introduce themselves, and then we'll tell you some of the kind of the lay of the land, and then we'll get started. So my name is Missy Frazen, and I work as an assistant director in UIC Career Services.
I'm Lauren Gallagher. I am the Assistant Director of Career Development and Internships in the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences.
Hello, everyone. My name is Liz Herrera, and I am the Director of Career Development and Major Exploration at the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences.
So I think the first thing that we just wanted to say before we get started is that we know that there's just been a lot going on with COVID and with everything, with different protests, and just there's a lot happening. So we just want to let you all know we hope that our panelists are doing okay, your families are doing okay, and also that students and alums are doing okay. We know there's a lot going on. We're thinking about you. If there's anything that we can do to be helpful or you need anything, please don't hesitate to reach out to any of our staff, Lauren, Liz, or myself. And then we're going to also kind of explain a little bit more about how this event's going to be organized.
So we've had a few of these events, and the opportunity to connect with professionals doesn't always happen. So really take advantage of this next hour and 15 minutes to be present and to really engage with the professionals who have given us their time, ask questions. You'll be able to connect with them afterwards, but we really encourage you to spend some time hearing their story, following up. And what we're going to do is spend about 20 minutes or so in the beginning having a panel. So we'll ask them questions about their background so you can get a little bit of information about what they're currently doing. And then we'll split everybody up into breakout rooms. So you'll get to connect with each of the panelists in a smaller group to ask any of the personal questions that might have come out of the panel.
Awesome. So we're going to get ready and get started. I will say that if you are on the call, if you're not speaking, if you can mute yourself, we're going to get a little bit background noise. And again, be patient with us with technology. Even though we feel pretty good, I think this is our third time, and we feel pretty good about it. There are always technical hiccups, so we appreciate your patience. So let's go ahead and get started. If each of our panelists today, if you can please tell us your name, your current role, a little bit of your career journey, and we'll allow about 3 to 5 minutes, and we'll start with Chris.
Sure. Hey there, everybody. It's good to be here with you. My name is Chris Michael Tena. I usually go by CM. I use he, him pronouns, and currently I work with the Student Conservation Association as a national program coordinator. So in that role, I help place interns with SCA, with different national parks or federal agencies or other partners like local city parks to do resource conservation programs, engagement programs with the public, and really kind of a whole swath of conservation related projects. So in my career, I kind of fell into it, like a lot of good things happening, just building on itself. But yeah, right about 10, 11 years ago, I graduated from undergraduate during the recession. So not a lot of options, but I found AmeriCorps during that time, and I worked with the California Conservation Corps doing their VISTA program, so helping folks attain education, further education, or career skills after their 1-year service. I worked with, after that position, I kind of worked with AmeriCorps again and the CCC as VISTA leader, so managing the program from central headquarters for 18 different sites across the state of California. So that was my first kind of understanding of like what it means to be a leader and how to manage people and not like your own personal projects. Since then, I've kind of grown and worked with other different youth and core programs, conservation core programs. And I think that is kind of the trajectory of my career, is working with youth, youth development programs, you know, giving folks the tools to learn for themselves and grow into leaders. When I went to graduate school, you know, I focused on a concentration in nonprofit management because that's kind of the field, the sector that I want to be in, and specifically kind of youth development work through hands-on service. So that's a little bit about me. So happy to answer any questions as we get to them.
Great, thank you. Sarah, would you like to go next?
Yes, thank you. Thanks for asking me to be here. I recognize so many of the students that are on this call right now, so this is going to be redundant for all of you, or for a lot of you, so I apologize. Hello, my name is Sarah Koning, and I use she, her pronouns, and I am currently the Sustainability Program Manager at UIC. I first came to UIC in 2006 to do my PhD work in environmental history, and I spent many years working on my research and dissertation at UIC. And after about 4 or 5 years here, I realized that in addition to my research, I wanted to get involved in the environmental work that was happening on campus. In other words, I just didn't want to only teach or only do research. I also wanted to be more hands-on on campus. So in 2011, I joined the Office of Sustainability as a graduate assistant. And I first started my work on the sustainability fee. I think most of the students here know the sustainability fee. It's a fee that students pay every semester, $6 a semester, and we fund and implement sustainable projects on campus. So that was my first foray, into the sustainability work on campus. Since 2015, I've been a full-time staff member with sustainability, and I currently run the Sustainability Internship Program. Again, I recognize a lot of names on here because I've had these students in the program, so that's wonderful to see. The Sustainability Internship Program is a multi-year program at UIC, and it begins in the spring with a 4-credit course. It's Urban Studies Public Health 390. And then it continues in the summer as a paid internship course on campus. The program offers an internship placement at UIC departments or an affiliated organization, and we have weekly seminars, we have field outings, and we like to cover a range of educational and skill building topics, as well as the development of leaders and project management. If a student is successful in completing the spring and summer internship programs, we ask them to come back as student mentors to teach the new group of sustainability interns. There are several current sustainability mentors on this call, so again, welcome, welcome. In addition to all of this, I also teach 2 classes at UIC. In the fall, it's the Honors 201 course, and in the spring, as I mentioned earlier, it's the Urban Studies Public Health 390 course. Both of these courses cover a range of topics that include sustainability science, environmental justice, and biodiversity on university campuses, both at UIC and nationwide. And finally, I work closely on the development of and integration of sustainability into courses and curriculum at UIC. There are some classes and just a very small handful of minors on campus right now that have to do with sustainability. However, every year, students at UIC have asked for more and more sustainable academic opportunities, so I'm working hard to increase those opportunities at UIC. My undergraduate degree was in economics, so that really didn't prepare me at all for anything I'm doing now, but I do appreciate that I had a wide variety of training, academic training before starting this position. So I look forward to talking to all of you in the breakout sessions. Thank you.
Great. Essence, would you like to go next?
Hi, my name is Essence Brown. I'm a current environmental scientist 1 at the Illinois Pollution Control Board. So basically what I do is I do a lot of the technical reviews for a lot of environmental cases that come up in front of the board to determine whether or not that they are technically compliant with our regulations. And then I also have to go to the hearings to give, okay, sorry, hold on. Okay. So I also have to go to the hearings in order to collect all this information, and then we have to Then I make a summary document that I give to the board so they can make their final decision. I have my bachelor's in biomedical science from SIU Carbondale. That actually surprisingly did help me for this role because I do a lot of work with reading about microorganisms and like fish. And then I got my master's in public health and environmental occupational health sciences from UIC, and that really prepared me to do a lot of the paperwork and things of that nature.
Wonderful. Stefanie.
Hi, thanks for having me. My name is Stefanie Urian. I use she, her pronouns. I am currently a senior HR analyst in the employee selection section for the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District of Greater Chicago. For those of you that aren't familiar with the district, they are public agency that cleans wastewater and manages stormwater for basically the entire Cook County region. So anything that goes down a drain will wind up at one of the 7 water treatment plants or water reclamation plants that the district operates. And they're also working hard to do things like recover resources from these processes. So to my role there, I work in human resources and employee selection, and that is the section of HR at the district that deals with things like interviews, job analyses. We review the applications for all applicants. So because the district is a public agency and we are mandated by Illinois statute, we're a civil service employer. And what that means is we have to administer competitive exams for every position. So with every position, we make the exams job specific. So what our section of HR does is we get to go out and learn about all the different jobs. We do a job analysis that helps us to determine what the critical knowledge, skills, and abilities are that are required for each position. And then typically we'll work with a subject matter expert in that area to develop some sort of competitive exam, whether it's a written exam or speaking before a panel. We call those oral tests. Or it could be like a practical test. You might have to like demonstrate your skills and then be rated on that. And they have over 200 job classifications at the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District, which is why I love my job so much, because I get to learn a little bit about every different job. And just before I get too much into the district and what they do and what I do there, my career journey, I started off pretty much always with an interest in the sciences growing up. And when I got to college, I thought, I'm gonna be a biology major. I'm gonna minor in psychology. That's gonna be my ticket to be in like the human health world. And when I got to college, I realized that when I was minoring in psych and fulfilling my prerequisites, that I was really interested in the social sciences more. And I wound up being a psychology major with a biology and sociology minors. So that's kind of how I arrived at psychology. After college, like Chris, I graduated from college in 2010, so it was real tough during the recession to find a job with very little work experience. So I did start off as an administrative assistant for a contracting tech company. And they were doing a lot of projects contracting to municipalities. I started to figure out that I was interested in working within the public agency world. We did some projects with Metra and the city of Chicago, and that kind of drew me to looking towards like the public sector. I spent a small time working for UIC in their testing center of HR there, because as many of you may know, there are civil service jobs at UIC. And that was kind of my little stepping stone to get to become an HR analyst at the district doing this type of work. happy to be here and excited to talk more about this. Thanks for having me.
Great, thank you everyone for sharing. For the rest of the panel, we'll kind of just go in that same order. So CM, Sarah, Essence, and Stefanie. And for this next question, the topic of the event is careers in environmental advocacy. So I'm kind of wondering, just were you involved with something, or was there this moment that you realized that you wanted to work in an industry where you were somehow connected to advocate for environmental needs? And then also, and Stefanie, you had started to touch on this, are there skills or strengths that might be helpful for students in this industry? Are there specific things that they should be able to articulate and to gain now to be successful?
Yeah, so my journey, again, is a little not linear. It's an unlinear kind of career path, but I think the best careers are founded that way. I would just say that for pursuing kind of where I am now, I was most interested in people. Like Stefanie, I studied sociology. That was my major in college. It's very broad, but it allows me to kind of understand where people are coming from and also their motivations, and kind of, so that's how I kind of fell into the environmental world, is like, well, people need things like a clean environment, and I liked working with people, connecting them with resources. So kind of going through the HR route a little bit earlier in my career, and now in the program management route now, I'm connecting people with resources so they can do the on-the-ground hands-on work. I've done that before myself because I feel like to really know and understand kind of what you're asking people to do, you need to be able to do it yourself. So I did a season as a backcountry trails corps member, basically. So I built trails in Yosemite Valley and in the backcountry there. So I know what hard work is and living in a tent for 6 months feels like. So I have that hands-on work, and I think out of everything, and then along with that, going on to grad school to pursue kind of more grounded education and like how organizations are run, how to be an effective leader. I think through all of that, I would just say, like, getting into the environmental sector, one, you have to be kind of flexible, because I know for a lot of the internships and positions that FCA has, and also kind of other organizations that do kind of field work, if you want like hands-on service or hands-on work, it's typically seasonal. So you kind of have to roll with things like, if there's a thunderstorm that's rolling in, you probably should pack up from the field and like go back to the maintenance yard and work on some other projects, or be flexible in the way that you're dealing with people, again, with weather or the environment. That'll get to people, and so you need to be flexible with working within your team, and knowing like who can do what and how you can empower them and empower each other to have a successful kind of project. Those are some of the kind of people skills, I guess, that have led me to be successful where I'm at. And also, most of the hard skills that you'll know how to, do analysis of a type of soil or things like that. You can learn a lot of that, on the job. Obviously, having a good background in that and understanding it is really helpful, but I think knowing just the basics and then being willing to learn, that's been really helpful for me to kind of excel where I'm at and what I see other folks doing.
Thanks, Sian. So how I came into this background, my father was an economist for the National Park Service when I was growing up. So I have been deep in the conservation culture since I was born. Furthermore, my mother's family is German, and they were very poor when they came over here. So they were very into kind of sustainable lifestyles and living by circumstance, not necessarily by choice. So I grew up around a lot of this, and I didn't know anything different. So it was a natural progression for me to study environmental history and then get involved in sustainability. I also find that the people the majority of people working in sustainability are very open-minded and very interesting, and the youth activists in sustainability are the most amazing students to be around, the most amazing people to be around, and they are doing all of the important work, and I like being around that. So I guess that's why I still stay around in sustainability. In terms of skills, I would probably affirm and confirm what CM said, but for me, it is listening and forming relationships with students and student organizations. Those are skills that I think are very important. As I work at a university, the students are the most important thing. This isn't about me, it's about them and what they want to learn, what they want to see in the curriculum, what they want to see in program development. It's also about me being open to learning and discussing new ideas and understanding new ideas. The students teach me more than I teach them. I'm sure a few weeks ago, or maybe a few months ago, some students were telling me how, for example, how it's not called food deserts anymore, it's called food apartheid. And I really took to that idea, and I've been thinking about it for many, many weeks/months. So this ability to continue to learn and to understand different viewpoints are skills that are really important. And that not just with students, but also listening and forming relationships with other people on campus, faculty, staff, stakeholders, etc. And again, as CM said, I realize these aren't tangible skills, but the technical skills and the technical knowledge can be learned and or taught on the job. But things such as empathy and being open to learning and listening are a lot harder to teach, I have found. So those are skills that I need, but also find very useful when working with other people on campus and on sustainability issues. Thank you.
Oh no.
I think you're good, Essence.
Oh, okay, because I'm like, it didn't show that it was unmuted, then my computer froze.
Oh no, you're good. We can hear you and see you.
Okay, good. So, the way I decided to join this field is I had graduated in 2016 with my bachelor's in biomedical sciences, and that was around the time the Flint, Michigan crisis was coming out, and we were finding out all the details. And I was like, I have a lot of my background in biomedical science was like microbiology, biochemistry, and I wanted to use those skills to fight environmental racism and that type of thing. So I did a lot of, I took a year off and I did a lot of research on what kind of program can I do where I can use both my biology skill, use this degree and fight against environmental racism. And then I stumbled into the field of public health and environmental public health. And when I got, so I went and got that degree. And when I was in that program, I was trying to research ways and roles that I can do in order to, what's going on? Okay. And so I was researching those types of roles. And then I kind of fell into this state job. I was just on the Illinois job posting site, and I was just anything that basically anything that I was qualified for that seemed interesting, and I submitted the application. And honestly, every step of the way of me getting the job, I was surprised. I was surprised when I got the call back. I was surprised when I got the interview, and I was surprised when I got the job. So I guess the moral of the story is believe in yourself, because sometimes even if you think it's out of your league, you might still get it. And for this job, I would say that you really need to be detail oriented. For example, there's this case that I've been working on. It's 1,000 pages. And when I write, and when I write up this summary, I have to make sure that everything I'm putting in it is very accurate. Like that I'm not leaving anything out, because for my job, it's just me and my boss that go over all of these things. So we have to be very, very, very like particular and make sure that we're not making any mistakes before we send it out. So I'd say it's like you have to be detail oriented. You have to be willing to like work with people, because I'm like, it's 2 scientists that work with me and then a bunch of lawyers. So we have to like balance like the legal portion of it and the science portion of it when we deal with these cases. And I'm done. I would unmute myself, but my computer froze, so I apologize for that.
No problem. Thanks, Essence. I think it's my turn. So for getting into this field, I kind of touched on it already. Like Chris, I'm interested in people, and I feel very lucky to be working in HR in an environmental or a public organization. I've always been interested in nonprofits, public agencies, and I got lucky. And like Essence, along the way, you know, when I first applied for the job at UIC, I was surprised to become an HR rep there. I was coming from my admin assistant job, where actually I decided in that job that I was going to look into HR things, because I was kind of a little like a jack of all trades, so to speak, in this role, because it was a small office and I was doing a lot of different things to help project managers, which included reviewing resumes. And I thought, okay, I'm getting a little bit of experience here. I like people. I liked, you know, looking at people's backgrounds educationally, experientially, and kind of getting to know people on paper was kind of, it drew me in. So got that job at UIC, HR rep and testing. I actually thought when I saw the posting at the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District that there was no way I would ever get that job. I applied on a whim, and I thought, wow, what a cool agency to be able to work for. It was actually one of my, it was an ex-boyfriend that told me to apply, and he said, have you heard of this agency? They work here. They're building the biggest civil engineering project of all time. It's so cool. They're building these huge tunnels under where we live and taking care of the water. I was like, well, that is really cool. And there just so happened to be an HR analyst posting that day that he told me about it, and I applied, and here I am. So I feel lucky that I was able to take my experience and skills and kind of find my way to where I am now. Just to echo a little bit of what Sarah said about skills, empathy is a great one. And like Chris was saying about sociology, learning about people and understanding a little bit more about systems. I love doing my job because I get to see the way that all these different occupations come together to keep, you know, us being able to flush the toilet, you know, start the sink every day. We are so lucky to be living here, you know, with the resource of Lake Michigan and all of the people that work hard to protect our environment. So having soft skills, what I see too in job analyses, you're always going to need communication skills, working with other people, being open-minded, seeing how we all fit in this together to make everything go around.
Great. There's a huge representation of the soft skills and how apparent they are in all of your fields, even though, you know, it can be technical, and just your emphasis on the soft skills. So now for the next question, we recognize that everyone's role has shifted, you know, during the pandemic, but if to the best of your ability, if you can describe a typical day, typical week in your role, even before the pandemic, and maybe kind of how it's shifted a little bit during this time. So to the best of your ability.
So for me, a lot of my work is done behind a screen anyway. So before, working from home was cool and necessary. I was doing that for this position that I have currently. So what I do now is I manage internships across the Western US. So draw a line from the Dakotas westward, and if you take out Alaska, California, and Arizona, any intern in the rest of those states, all the way out to Guam, that's my territory to manage. So that could be like up to 100, 150 interns in the field during our high time, which is usually summer, but because of COVID, things are a little less than that workload right now. But we still have interns in the field, and what I typically do during a week is check in with folks, do ensure like their needs are being met in terms of like how's their like working relationship with their supervisor, provide advice on like if they're not getting along with folks, or how to kind of advocate for themselves to take on more responsibility, and kind of work on skills that they want to build up for their future career. Because with any SEA internship, you're building towards a goal, you're building towards something more. And that's really what I want to instill in each of our interns, is just like, how are you making each day of your internship work towards the rest of your career? Whether that's showing up and doing your job great, or just like being able to deal with what you have going on that day. So things have shifted a little bit, but mostly I can keep a normal-ish schedule. I'm based out of Medford, Oregon right now, being kind of in this time zone. So it's a little bit easier to manage 1, 2, 3, 4 time zones, where I have interns. So sometimes I'll have later days that I kind of shift my day like 10 o'clock onward. Sometimes I need to get on an earlier call. So it really just depends on the day, but I'm really lucky in this position that I can do that, because prior to this, I had a field-based position where I was supervising folks in the field in Chicago. And sometimes we would have really early morning days in Gary, Indiana. So driving out there from Chicago for a 6 a.m. Planting of trees with a community group. It's great, it's rewarding, but it's also pretty tiring through a whole season. But I was really happy in that job, in the way that I was interacting with folks and being with people. This new role is a little bit of a shift from that, mostly on the phone, and my travel schedule to visit folks has been curtailed, again, due to COVID. But overall, I think that's generally how I can see my weeks through the end of the year, just managing folks and getting to know them via virtual meetings.
So pre-COVID at least, every day is different for me. On the days I teach, it's really focused on students. So that's preparing for classes, holding office hours, individual one-on-one meetings with students. I also think a lot about how I can rework my syllabus for the following year, doing a lot of updated reading, and also thinking about other classes that UIC could have that would benefit students. So it's those days, it's very focused on the academic side. On the days that I don't teach, I would spend a lot of time working with the different sustainable projects and programs on campus. Some of the programs and organizations that I work with at UIC are, and this is a big, huge shout out to the Heritage Garden interns, because some of them are on here, are the Heritage Garden on campus, the Biosci Greenhouse, and a variety of different gardens on West Campus. I think continuing to build relationships with these programs is really to the benefit of all students at UIC. I also have a lot of one-on-one meetings with students who have ideas for projects or questions about programs. I also spend a lot of time thinking about new project ideas. I do a lot of reading on kind of best practices in sustainability and literature reviews. I attend a lot of conferences. And there's a lot of just very much independent work, but also meeting with students a lot. And I would be really remiss to say, if I didn't say that there is a lot of paperwork. It's a state university, it's a state job, so there's lots of paperwork and lots of meetings. And this year I've been processing student employment, which just takes forever. So that's maybe not the fun part of the job, but it's still a necessary component. But generally it's very independent work. Now that it's COVID, I just have a lot of Zoom meetings. I've been meeting with students all day, attending panels like this via Zoom. We're very lucky at UIC that we are able to work from home. I'm not considered an essential worker, so I don't have to be on campus. And I think this will continue in the fall, so I'm learning a lot of good technical skills to carry through to my meetings and classes with students in the fall. Thank you.
Hi, honestly, first and foremost, I apologize for the technical difficulties I had a little earlier, but I think they're fixed now. A day-to-day for me pre-COVID was I would come in and I would have to check my emails, and then I'd have to go through, I'd have a list of cases that I have to work on, and I have to double check with deadlines. And basically it's me reading a lot of technical paperwork and taking notes, and then trying to formulate questions that we would ask. We work with a lot of the cases that I work on involve industrial companies, so we have to sometimes ask them for more information. So a day-to-day, I normally look for missing information in case files. I try to I cross-check it with information that we get from the government on what their guidelines are and what they're looking for. And then if I'm not working it from the office, I have to go to I'm sitting at a hearing and I'm listening to evidence and I'm taking mental notes for me to later go back to my office and submit that to the board. Post-COVID, it's a lot of office work, it's a lot of computer work. I'm still doing the technical reviews and stuff, but now we've moved all our hearings to WebEx, which is online. So we're still trying to figure out the kinks when it comes to that, because there's a lot of legal issues that come along with that.
Thanks. So pre-COVID, a typical day for me, well, first I'll just go back a little bit. The district, mandated to administer these tests. Each of the analysts in my section at work, employee selection, has kind of their own workload. So you kind of take on a role of project manager in our section, and you are managing, I would say during a typical calendar year, you're managing about 6 projects. So 6 different titles, and that can be any of the 200. So we give these exams which create eligible lists that the district will hire off of. And so every job title, let's say environmental scientist, we give the test, you take the test, you pass, you're on this eligible list. That means for the next 3 years, we're going to use this list to hire off of. So it's a very antiquated system, but it's part of the statute, and this is what we do. All of the job titles are on a rotating basis. So for example, I could have, we have all these different job titles. So I get to manage whatever needs to be given that year. I could have a skilled trade like a carpenter, a lab assistant, an assistant civil engineer, a structural engineer, a financial analyst. Those could be some of my projects that I'm managing throughout the year. I will understand the job by doing background research, which would include reading the current job specification, questionnaires that we give to employees, which we call PCQs, personnel content questionnaires, just like, what do you do on a day-to-day basis? What kind of education have you had? What do you think, what skills do you think you need to do this job? So I get to read these cool documents and figure out, you know, make comparisons and see what the commonalities are, and then hold a job analysis, typically a meeting with incumbents of the job, to talk about the findings, what they agree with or disagree with. And like I said, we'll typically work with a subject matter expert. So I'm not an environmental scientist, so we usually will hire like a consultant. So I'm also managing these relationships throughout the year, subject matter experts in different fields, communicating with them and what the district needs are to administer an exam, and they'll develop it. I'll do cleaning up, editing. This is where like detail orientation comes in. I'm doing formatting, stuff like that, just in Microsoft Word, getting it up to the district standards and templates like that. We deal with the application review. So currently, in my role, I have 3 analysts that work on my team that also do application review. So everyone in our section, besides their regular job titles that they're managing, also has a little side project. So your side project might be reviewing applications or managing transfers. So the district also has represented employees, which just means they're under a collective bargaining agreement, and there are certain rules that we have to follow in terms of transfers, like seniority-based transfers. So part of your job might be, your side project job is like making sure that we're following the union agreements, the collective bargaining agreement, and receiving requests, processing requests. And we also have side projects like interviews. So our section manages the entire district interview process. So I will work alongside a panel of, let's just say, engineers that are going to be interviewing candidates for like an engineering tech position. So I'll consult with the panel and let them know what the HR standards are and how to carry out these interviews. A typical day, there's no typical day. There's a bunch of different projects always going on. Time management, I didn't mention that earlier, is a big one that you must have, especially when there's not someone telling you like, okay, today you need to work on XYZ. You kind of have to take a look at your overall timelines and see what you need to work on day to day. So scheduling's a big one there too. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone. It was really cool to hear just the differences in the type of work that you do. So now what we're going to do is split each of the panelists up into a small group, and students, panelists, you don't have to worry about anything. We're going to control it all on the back end. And one thing I would encourage each of the students to ask our panelists is opportunities to get involved. Many of the panelists have talked about internship opportunities, so make sure that you're engaging with the panelists. And Missy, I will let you take it away.